fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's it, see. It's gonna be fucking awesome.
I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right down in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. That made me cry when I was a kid, reading it in school. That's where we're supposed to be focused, joining hands together. And I ask you, is that where we have found ourselves now? I'm 41 years old. When I was young, there was still an awful lot of unseen injustice going on. And now I've watched as that injustice has been propped up and used as a shield, as a cover for all of the other injustice that isn't as easy to turn into a petty fight and squabble online and in actual reality. I've hesitated to have this conversation for a very long time, but recent confidences of people close to me and recent news starting to come out, I want to talk about it because I refused to let myself be a victim. And this is Jesse Blaze Snider. You're listening to the Coolest Geek Alive. Hello, Coolest Geeks. How you doing? I love you so much. Care Bears stare out to you all. I think if you guys have been listening to me long enough, you know that I am a person who believes that everybody should have the right to do whatever the fuck they want to do. And should not have other people fucking peer pressuring them or trying to make laws to govern, you know, how that is. You know, I saw a terrible video the other day about a lady who was like, realized that being pro-choice meant that also they could keep the baby. That's fucking crazy. Yes, pro-choice is the term. You're pro giving other people the choice for how they are living their lives. That's the idea. I believe most people on planet Earth, with the exceptions of crazy people, are pro-choice. And people who are like, no, I need to make a law to get the... I'm sure that we could change their mind the moment you wanted to make a law that was going to affect their freedom and sovereignty. And, you know, this is really the line. The line is choice for everybody. Everybody's supposed to have choice. I've been very nervous right now because there's this terrible culture battle going on. There's people who are either living in the system and have to pretend to agree with it, or brainwashed and being brainwashed by whatever the system says and doing whatever the system says because they actually believe that the system is here for us and not working for its own advantage. which is really what the system is always doing. And trust me, as a 41-year-old man who has worked in a dozen different industries, just like professionally, and a dozen different industries in the entertainment world, and is connected into the world, whether it's the entertainment world or the business world, through the upbringing that I've had. I know a lot of people from a lot of fucking walks of lives. Not just white people, not just black people, not just Hispanic people, not just women and lesbians and trans. I know fucking everybody. I am not opposed to anybody. And in general, I am more interested in people who are interesting. So I am open. I've lived a very open life, and I am in the community in various ways. And let me tell you that the fucking cool people amongst all of these communities, they don't think like this fucking pointed extreme left that you see online, and you see so many fucking creative people and people who work in the industry supporting. I'm a very different creative professional than most people because I am audience oriented. I've always cared about the audience. I was an audience member, and I wanted to be a part of the joy of making people feel things, feel like they could do it, be motivated, be impressed, be excited, be blown away. There were so many wonderful artists who blew me away on whatever level. One of the first ones for me, besides my father, was Jim Henson. And I just adored what he did. He brought a magic to the world that just did not exist prior to that. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to do anything like that. And in this creative world, there are just so many wonderful people. I heard Joe Rogan talking the other day. He had a comedian named Tyler Fitch on his show. And I've known about this comedian and his dealings with agencies, and that he basically recorded an agent after many times being told this, that basically they were not hiring white people. I will talk to you about this shortly because I have dealt with this myself. Again, I don't like to be a victim. I not like to be a victim, but I don't really care. If somebody wants to get rid of me or whatever it might be because I'm white, I just think, well, this isn't for me, obviously. It's like, that's your loss, and that's stupid that you're thinking that way. On with the show. But when it starts happening to my friends, and it's happening to everyone. It is widespread. And this is just, the tip of the iceberg, really. I think a lot of lawsuits and a lot of things are going to come out, as they should. Because what is happening right now is a reverse racism. And I mean, it's not even reverse racism. It's blatant racism towards white men in particular. And it is happening all over the place. But Joe talked about bringing in his booker and telling his booker that he didn't care about quotas and this many black people, that many white people, or get straight. He said he just wanted funny people. He just wanted whoever I want the funny people. And he said, and doing it that way, he said, we've got the most fucking diverse lineup ever. And I don't really know what kind of diverse lineup they have at that. It's the Comedy Space Station or something like that. Is his place in Texas. But he said it has naturally developed that way. And let me tell you, me and my great friend Aaron Sparrow, and really most of this is Aaron's doing, but Aaron and I have worked together for many years, and the group of people that we work together is fucking diverse as hell. And these are ultimately the people who have risen to the top of the groups of people that we've met and we've clicked with, and this person's great, and they hand in great work, and whatever it is. And I mean, from Andrew Dahlhaus, who's our favorite freaking colorist to use. Andrew's, I'm guessing black. I mean, I don't know. I've never fucking asked him. I don't give a shit. But something, I don't know. He might be Indian. He might be mixed. Whatever. Erica Tariquez, who does all of our book design. Erica Tariquez, she's Hispanic and female. There's just so many. Nathan Watson, who's one of our best friends, who we loved. I worked with Nate on Toy Story for many years, and Nate's a black guy. It just the Darren Bennett, who runs the lettering house that we use. Granted, like Darren Bennett hired DC Hopkins, who does really great stuff. DC's a white guy. Darren's a black guy. Darren's the owner of that company. We like Darren. Darren's great. Darren put DC on the book. It's not about any of this bullshit. It's about getting the right people to do the right job to make something great. And in general, so often it does end up diverse naturally when that is what's going on. You know, so much of the stilted world that we were living in yesterday, and trust me, we were living in a stilted world. If you're out there and you're leaning right and you're young, you might have it like, oh man, like everything's always been no, like everything was always fair. Like, nah, there was a couple barriers to entry. And, you know, I'm old enough that, like, when I first started writing, it was still there. An idea that you basically wanted a white male lead, and you didn't want a girl lead or any multiracial anything. And that if you were going to try to pitch something like that, it was always going to be a little bit of and not even a little bit. It might make it impossible, or they might ask you to change that aspect of the character. And meanwhile, there were characters who were bucking this system, like, you know, Black Panther's a really perfect one. You know, Black Panther is a character who's a favorite of people. He really works. He's been done really well in the comics. He's a favorite character amongst so many different different people. I mean, he's one of my favorite characters. I love Black Panther. You know, and a Black Panther action figure would sell perfectly fine, and a Black Panther movie would have done really well. And I think Avi Arad, who was accused of being like completely anti a women's movie, and maybe he was standing against a Black Widow solo film or whatever else, and maybe he was standing against a Black Panther. I don't know, but I do know that he was trying to pitch a Black Panther movie for a little while. So eventually, obviously, he came around with Wesley Snipes, and this, but there was a barrier, and I think Airy not being able to pitch that Wesley Snipes Black Panther movie, he hit up against some of these things. You know, Blade, I think, got by because Blade seemingly fit the cultural narrative of like hip hop and all of this other bullshit. And granted, it was a little outside of that. Thank God, you know, it wasn't just some hip hop trope. But it was like close enough versus like Black Panther, who's a king, and like, you know, I think there was a bit of a pushback and barrier for that. You know, of like not, and even like, you know, for women of like, you know, finding it hard to believe as a female lead, you know, doing all these things. And I think that you can make female leads work. You just tend to have to make them work harder than the men on the physical level. And you need to allow them to be feminine and allow access to their feminine nature to be a part of their story as well, because there's wonderful things that can come from that nature. Granted, not every woman is the most feminine woman, and that doesn't necessarily always have to be the key. And, you know, if the woman is purely masculine, but she's really fucking working hard, and she got something that she wants, as we've talked about many, many times on this show, at the end of the day, all it matters to your audience, and there are freaking writing books written on this, all that matters to your audience is that, like, they want something and they are working hard to get it, and they are struggling. And if you make them struggle hard enough, and if you make them want it hard enough and struggle hard enough, the audience will demand that you give them whatever they want. Doesn't matter what color they are, doesn't matter if they're a girl, a boy, anything. There are so many examples of girls going over with the audience. And when I say going over, it's like in wrestling. Did you go over with the crowd? Were they with you? There are so many fucking examples of the audience, you know, black people going over with the audience and Hispanic people going over with the audience. I mean, just like so many of them. So many people have already broken down these walls, like Antonio fucking Banderas in Desperado, you know, or Wesley Snipes with any number of great fucking action movies that he did. And other people before him who really opened up the genre through blaxploitation films and shit. You know, people like Jim Brown and Isaac Hayes, and, you know, cool people who were usually known for kind of other things, but brought into the world and had a presence. I mean, like, this door has been open. There has been a white audience, because like anything that is successful is ultimately getting the white audience in America, or has for a long time, because the audience in America was dominantly white for the longest time, and it still is dominantly white, but not like it used to be. You know, but there are so many examples of these things crossing over completely. And to say that that battle is over, like fucking over, black culture has been accepted. You know, is there a skew in the way black culture has been presented? Is there a skew in the way Hispanic culture, all these cultures be? Absolutely. And the racism that's going on with white people right now is countered by an amplification of the racism of other cultures and women that used to be going on. If you are representative of any of these groups,
other than being a white guy, you know, and you haven't noticed the tokenism that is going on all the time, the shorthand and short change and the generalizations and the sort of stupidity and the inability to treat every gay person as capable of being like any number of people in our society. You know, it's like not every gay guy is a flaming gay guy. And, you know, and part of why there's a lean into things like that is because they're trying to signal you all the time. Look what we're doing. Look who we're including. Look at and that shows you the inherent insincerity of everything that's going on. All of the fucking DEI, it's just completely insincere because it's calculated and engineered in such a meticulous way and such an over-correcting way that it is very obvious to see in your entertainment. But the things going on underneath the surface, behind the scenes, and this is across all of entertainment. I'll give you plenty of examples beyond the ones that I'm going to talk to you about that are in the news. But Tyler Fitch recorded himself being told by an agent, we are not taking on any white clients right now. I was dropped from an agency basically for that reason as they were contracting. And you know, as it said, it is often unspoken. I had something said to me that was very much a veiled, you're not the right fit for right now. I can't promote you as heading up this line of comics. I had a really good idea to expand a line of a smaller thing. It was a very well thought out piece. And it could totally have worked. And even the person that they had already working within the thing, and I guess this ultimately was the problem, they were a white guy. So they were having trouble promoting the book, basically, because in comics it's become completely just virtue signaling, sort of like, look who we got on the book. We got a black guy on the book. You know, famously, Christopher Priest turned down writing Cyborg or another black character that DC wanted to hire him to write. He said, I'll come write, but I'm not writing a black character. I'm not a black guy coming to write a black character. I'm not going to be your token black guy. Fucking kudos to Christopher Priest, who I always loved. He's such a great writer. Fucking A, man. Shout out to you. That shit is awesome. You know what's awesome? The freaking guy who is collecting KKK hoods by going and connecting with these motherfuckers who he understands have some skewed view of the universe, and you know, he's going to introduce them to a really wonderful guy who happens to be fucking black, and these guys are going to change their fucking tune. They're going to realize that there's good in the world, and you know, that's the thing. You know, you can be the change. Right now, a lot of you, and I'm sorry, but a lot of you guys are going along with this bullshit, and we got to stop. We got to stop going along with this bullshit. I mean, just, we have gutted, and like there's so many people who've had to move on to other things, who have had to move out of California, you know, who are, maybe they'll be able to tap on the show, maybe they're going to just be happy doing other things, but like the system of really good writing that was in place, and granted, there's a lot of problems with that system, and there was a lot of fucking old boys club and shit, and an idea and a notion that things should be more inclusive, but you know, that comes and that changes with time, and it was changing and is changing. Well, it was changing. Now it's permanently changed in this broken direction. Recently, I think this guy's name is James O'Keefe. He's like, you know, like some scooper reporter. He was catfishing these guys who worked at Disney, which morally I don't feel awesome about how this information was fucking obtained. But what they said matches everything that has been said behind the scenes between so many different people that I know working in the industry. And, you know, and basically it's that this guy, one of the white guys who was interviewed, he said that he literally didn't believe that he really had the possibility of any any upward mobility, that he'd been up for various jobs before because he'd been working there for 10 years. He knew a lot of people like in human resources that like liked him, he had good relationships. And he was like, look, nobody's going to tell you this, but they're not going to promote you because you're white. And, I've talked about before how like technically, and I say technically because I don't like this bullshit. I don't like that. Like, why do I have to I don't have to tell you shit about like my unique sexuality, but like I'm non-binary. There were moments in time where I contemplated, do I just kind of speak my truth? I mean, because like I am like on the spectrum of like the LGBTQ community or whatever. I'm still ultimately straight. I go out with girls, but I like girls who are really tough. All of my girls the girls that I go out with are beautiful, but they're all really tough, like really strong women. And I like strong women, and I'm a bit of a feminine guy. And that's, one of the things, and the non-binary is like, you kind of grow up not really identifying with your sex. And not really feeling like that is you or representative of you. I'm into lots of boy stuff. And I'm not necessarily drawn to lots of girly stuff, but I never felt like a man. I don't know if I necessarily feel like a girl either. I don't like being a body, to be perfectly honest. I don't like that people like look at my face and my hair and like they gotta like judge all these things. And in fact, like my mohawk and my tattoos and so many things that I do, nail polish things that I like to do, they're really like all about like testing you as a member of society. Like if this bothers you, don't fucking come out and hang with me because I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to deal with people who are bothered by uniqueness. Like I love uniqueness, and I'll wear it on my sleeve. But like for me, like uniqueness is sort of like in thought and being able to bring interesting perspectives and interesting things into the world. That's what I appreciate the most. That's why I appreciate somebody like Jim Henson or Steve Jobs. Some people who are like my heroes, my personal heroes. The guy said, a lot of things of like, just doing deals. I think he was a lawyer for the thing and putting together different deals for different bits, and talking about how when they're going out for casting, they use different kind of code words that I would see all the fucking time in my voiceover work. And I'm a voiceover actor. I'm probably one of the most successful in like a couple different ways of my generation in voiceover. It's not like a place where like there's any books being written on the people who are doing it the best, but I have been the voice of a half a dozen major brands, from Pizza Hut, GameStop, Cheetos, Kia Motors, the Metropolitan Opera. I don't know what else off the top of my head, but and I've worked in every field of voiceover professionally. In animation, I've worked in video games, I've worked in books on tape, I've worked in commercials, which is like the most lucrative, and I've worked in narrations and live announce. I really do a lot in the field. And it used to be one-on-one auditions, and the one-on-one auditions were really good because it was personable. So you could kind of like come into contact with the people, and they would give you some direction, the casting directors, and then you could adjust your performance accordingly based on what they said. And then your dealing with them would be basically noted by them. Was Jesse friendly? Was he nice to work with? Answer to that was always yes. I'm really easy to get along with, and I'm a people pleaser. I like to make everybody happy. And I care about that more than like my performance. Like I care more about like, did my performance make you happy? And like, did I get you what you wanted? So, I'm a good because I have the skills to do it, and I am that natured. I'm a very good voiceover actor. I work very easily with people, and I always get everybody what we need because like I don't have any ego about it. Just want to get us what we need. What do you need? Let's get it done. So I would always be like in and out and get things done really fast. It's why I've worked as much as I have actually in the business. And worked for many years, like 4.5 years I think was my run on Kia Motors, 2.5 years on Pizza Hut. Generally speaking, you get these jobs for short periods of time, and I held them for a long time. So all of this is to say that the industry moved into MP3s at a certain period of time. But the specs for most things were very specific. I did not encounter a lot of black people when I would go on these personal voiceover things when they were casting thing. I remember one day going out for a Lion King thing, and because of my rock and roll voice, and I can get pretty low and I can give a voice that's pretty big, Mufasa. See the Lion King on Broadway. You know, I don't remember what I did. See the Lion King on Broadway, or whatever it was. But I could do something. You know, I could hit some lows, and I was appropriate for this thing. And it was the first time I saw any black people with me at any voiceover auditions. Honestly, and not only that, black people, and funnily enough, I'm blanking on his name. Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, and he was kind of like my inspiration for getting into voiceovers in the first place. And I went right over to him, and I just was like, "Oh my God, like you're Kevin Conroy. You're kind of my inspiration." And I'm like, I adore you. I loved your performance on Batman, and like so fucking cool. But I'm really mentioning this just to kind of mention that the black voices were slightly segregated, and there were only some white voices. Like Batman. Go see Lion King. The Lion King's coming to Broadway. You know, like that would be Kevin Conroy's fucking thing, right? There are certain voices that could pull off this gravitas, but a lot of the black people were relegated to this thing. And granted, occasionally I would see black people at auditions, but usually they did not have. And this is so lame, but like it's like they did not have the typical black voice that like was a thing. Like it's a thing in Hollywood, that particular voice. Hey, how you doing? Yeah. Have you been having headaches? Well, I've been having headaches too. And now I've been taking Excedrin. Excedrin for my migraines. Like they will always pigeonhole black people into, and it's gotten much better now in recent days, but for a long time there was a certain voice, and every black actor and like anybody who was like really trying to like get in there, comedians are a little bit of the exception. They can sometimes get away with having regional accents if they're really popular and stuff, but a lot of them will change their accents to sound more like the typical whatever. That, you know, depending on what kind of character they're putting on. But in terms of commercials and shit, I mean, like when you come into a commercial audition, it is such a superficial snap judgment that goes on. You walk through the door, they snap their fingers like, nah, that's not you. They're not the person I'm looking for. Because they're just looking for somebody who fits the bill. And the bills that they have are always just kind of fucking racist, ultimately. It's just like fundamentally, like, racist isn't necessarily a good word, but stereotype. It's always stereotypical. They're like trying to form things. They're not trying to do anything new. They're trying to hit a button that conforms to something that like speaks to the audience. The same way comic books are ultimately boiling down a thing. This is a girl and she's a little mousy and her boobies are a little small. This is a girl and she's bombastic and her boobies are really big. You know, it's a really simple way to sort of convey like sex pot, maybe not so much, you know, or muscly guy, not a muscly guy, you know, and there'll be a big difference. The middle isn't used as much because the middle doesn't well, I mean, a middle will be used all the time as in the background characters and stuff like that. But it's like, you know, the middle is the background, and then it's these extremes that are shown to you in the front of the frame to demonstrate the contrast of what we're trying to say about things. And generally speaking, story-wise, everything is about contrast. You know, you've got this person that represents this, and then along comes this person that represents a different thing. And then and they go back and forth. And that's fine in narrative and in story. But we don't want the story of Batman and the Joker and whatnot to play out in real life, and like where there's constant fucking calamity all the time, and everything's just getting more and more extreme with each storyline because the writer has to keep topping all the story. We don't want everything in society to be getting more and more extreme and topping all these things. We want to be the people who are working together and figuring out how to be fucking cool. You know, I've talked about before in comics, you know, it disappoints me that heroes of mine like Mark Waid, who's an incredible comic book writer, and Ethan Van Sciver, who's an incredible comic book artist. He's probably one of the greatest comic book artists alive right now. He's really fucking talented. And I know both these men, and both of them have been nothing but cool to me. And I do not know them to be demons in any way, shape, or form. I understand how Mark Waid, what he has done online to his reputation in so many ways with so many of the fans. And if you're out there and you have a chip on your shoulder about Mark Waid, I understand. You know, but I tell you, the guy who writes Superman at his favorite character, Superman, at the heart of this guy is an idea of goodness, but he's lost. He's gotten a little lost. As I think, maybe Ethan Van Sciver's gotten a little lost in being, jettisoned from his community because he was very wrongly accused of being a racist. And let me tell you, I've known him in the industry since beforehand. There's no fucking racist behavior. I mean, it's like the same fucking bullshit of the Donald Trump thing. Donald Trump's not really a racist. Like, go talk to fucking Dennis Rodman and Mike Tyson and all these other people. Trump is like, he respects anybody who fucking like works for whatever. He's a fucking old white guy, like all the fucking old white guys. He's as fucking racist as Biden is, and like Biden is on tape saying some fucking heinous shit about black people. Trump isn't. And actually, Trump's done some pretty cool things for the black community when you really find out. And I know these things because I have a little bit more of history with him than most people do, because my family's been kind of tied to them occasionally. My mom was almost his makeup artist. I really didn't want that to happen because I think he's a lecherous man who would probably be hitting on her all the time or whatever. I don't know. He seems like he might be a little better than that, but I don't think so. I think a lot of men are dogs. I've been a little bit of a dog myself in my life, and it's like not something that I'm proud of, but like it's just sort of a energy and nature that is very strong in men sometimes, and often there's things going on in their lives that they can't communicate and they can't talk about, and they're scared to express. And men are really trained to suppress feelings and not want to whine and complain about different things. I mean, like me, like as this has been going on for years now, 6 years now, or more. I mean, it was starting for a while. I realized that I had an old manager who had gone to all these Ivy League, school kind of things and come up in this system. And I realized now she knew the blueprint. She had been given the roadmap by all of her college professors and all the people. And she was totally doing things in this like very careful and safe way for this new world that we were going into. And but it was so safe that it didn't fucking do anything for me. Like I never fucking popped off. We made some money, but it was always in other things, like just like other interesting endeavors of doing voiceover or writing something else adjacent to something else, like a comic project or whatever. Like it wasn't like the success or progress in the areas that I really wanted to have them in. In some way, in some areas, the part of our relationship, I got a lot of placements. A lot of them, which I got myself, placements in ESPN music, like, behind the scenes for commercials and on television shows and things like that. So, I mean, there was some little things that went on, but like really it was a very safe path that she had me on. And I realized that it was all of this DEI world that was coming into be, so that I was like non-threatening to that system. And I'm a free thinker, and like I don't like to be like held to such a censorship. Like, people say like, comedy, man, like people should be allowed to fucking explore, and like, they're trying to be funny, they're trying to get laughs. They're not trying to upset people. They're trying to see if they can make people laugh, right? But philosophers are trying to see if they can make people think. I gotta be able to fucking talk to see if I can make you fucking think. And there are things that can be poisonous to the conversation sometimes. But unfortunately, in a free world, you have to allow yourself to be brave enough to come up against the wrong ideas. And you have to have enough faith in what the right idea is to defend it. And, ultimately, that's what I'm here doing today. I find racism to be abhorrent. But what is going on in the world right now, being categorized as racism, is not. But there is veiled racism going on against white people, and there is veiled racism going on against everybody through this tokenism in entertainment, through this victimism or victimization of victimhood that everybody has taken on. Like, we can't, my brothers, I don't see anybody's color. We can't let ourselves be victimized because we give up our strength. We're all strong. We can overcome everything. If you think you have a big villain, that's great. That just makes you the fucking hero that overcomes all those things. But also at the same time, feeling like you have to overcome things is the thing that traps you often and forever. Because it's not... I mean, look at what we have right now. a total overcorrection of things. There's a certain degree, the minorities have everybody else over a barrel in a lot of different ways. But still the conversation isn't that things have equalized or are starting to normalize or whatever. It's still the same conversation about how many years of oppression on this level or that level. Dude, we are all oppressed. The black experience is adjacent to the poor white experience, which is not quite as violent and not quite as a whole bunch of different things, because the fucking black community has been manipulated. They've been fucking up the black community on purpose. Like, there's all sorts of shit that's been going on for ages, but this shit is still happening. This change, this overcorrection into a fucking matriarchy, we're getting patriarchal women into office. We're getting people who are on the fucking take. We're getting people who want to commoditize their race and their gender and their fucking... This isn't the thing. This isn't... This isn't a nation where we're not being judged by the color of our skin. This is a nation where we are absolutely being judged by the color of our skin. Oh, you're black? Good. Oh, you're white? I don't know. We already have one white person who's been working here for like 12 years, and we haven't been able to fire them because they're really useful. Like, I mean, this is the world we're living in right now. That guy who's working at Disney has been working there 10 years, and he knows that he's like stuck where he is, and he's persona non grata in any dispute or any conversation. But these white people are not the white people you're looking for. These are the children of poor white people. The children of rich white people. Half of them aren't doing shit because they don't fucking have to. And they've got more money than God. And the ones who are working, they're your bosses. You stood on our fucking faces, these white people, so that you could get closer to the white people who you really meant to fucking get. And you didn't get them. You're their slaves. You're working under them. We were their white slaves before, working the hardest for them. And now they've got slaves of all different colors and lots of women busting their asses and making themselves a little miserable to live like men and play the game the way the men do. I have a friend of mine who is a real tough woman and wanted to do all that thing. She literally just, and she was great. She was great at it. She was really great at it. But she literally had a nervous breakdown. And had to change up, had to change everything. She wanted to do all these things, but it just... When you're playing with these men in the corporate world and the amount of drugs that they can do in these worlds, cocaine and whatever else, to keep their bodies going and whatever, the amount of work that often these guys are putting in because they never get married and they don't have a fucking wife or a family or whatever. It is insane, some of these drug-addled, crazy, live fast, die young lives of these white financial slaves, and all sorts of different colors now, but it used to be a class that was mostly that. Like, this thing, it's fucking wild, man. And women and men are different. There are women who can be exceptions to every fucking rule. But there is a general thing about nature, whether it's physical and emotional and whatever else, that lends women in a certain direction. We have been whitewashing everybody. We're just making everybody into bland caricatures of themselves to some degree, where you can't learn anything from them because they're just all a nonsensical ideal all the time. They're not unique people with unique problems and unique needs that can grow, that we can watch grow. They're afraid to lower the women down and no, the women's good all along is a very consistent sort of narrative. That does such a disservice to women. It's a disservice to the women who might watch those female characters and not be as inspired as they would be by somebody like Cool Hand Luke getting into a fight with the biggest guy in the prison and fucking getting up over and over and over again, and he's getting the shit kicked out of him, and he just keeps getting up. And not only is the audience being won over by this freaking asshole, but the whole prison yard's being won over by this asshole. And you understand why the prison yard would be won over by this asshole, because you're won over by them. Look at what they're doing. Look at what they're willing to go through in the name of what they believe, even if it's fucking stupid. Going through things, being put through things is important. It's important for these characters. And they hesitate to suggest that, like, a black person might come from a bad neighborhood and things, oh, well, that would be racist. Like, and not always. I mean, like, there's all sorts of different ways that this ends up getting rolled out. But there's tropes that they like to call it. Anything that is like, oh, well, that's become a stereotype. Well, stereotypes are meant to be broken, and stereotypes are broken by creating new and interesting characters who are new and interesting and don't necessarily fit a stereotype. Not simply by putting blocks onto all these things. Because this is the thing. When you put blocks onto all these things at once, no black person's special anymore. Versus when you don't put the blocks on these things and then a character is done really well, that becomes the thing that other people follow and they see. And this is special. Like my girl that I've been seeing for a really long time, Julie Bright, shout out to Julie. Julie is an electrician. She's one of the few electricians who does it the way the boys do it. She goes out and and to a certain degree, Julie's not even the right person for the job, even though she is, and she's out there to fucking show people. But she's getting beat up, and sometimes the work is a little bit rough on her, but she does it, and she has earned her way doing it, and to prove that she can do it, and she does do it, and she does it well, and it means something. When everybody's a fucking girl boss, it doesn't mean anything. Like, you're taking away the fact that this is fucking hard. And Julie's doing it. Don't take that away from her. And don't take that away from anybody who's doing the hard thing, who's getting into these situations that it hasn't necessarily always been easy. Like, that's a great thing. These people did this shit the right way. They earned that fucking KKK hood from those fucking racists. They got into the boys' club. And there's always been women, and there's always been gay guys, and there's always been all sorts of people in between, and other races who have been able to break some of these things. Some of these things have not been as easily broken, and honestly, unnaturally breaking them doesn't necessarily lead to the best results. Because it's like, if you're really a racist and you really have backwards views, it's like, that's not the fucking thing that happens. It's like the CEO guy who's got the right coming to respect a rival CEO who happens to be black or whatever. Like, that's how it's won. It's won through respect. It's won through mutual respect and understanding and caring. And that is the direction that we were heading in as a nation for a while. And then we flipped the script and we flew this back towards the white man in particular. And I fucking hate talking about this because technically I'm a white man, but I don't even fucking think of myself as a white. Like, I spend zero time thinking about myself as a color or a sex. Like, I am love, man. I am love, and I'm creativity, and I'm joy, and I'm fun, and that's what I spend 99.9% of my life doing and being. And my sex is so fucking minuscule, and my race is so minuscule in the scheme of things. It's insane. So please, as I say these things to you, do not hear me as a fucking white man. Because I don't fucking identify. I do not identify as a white man. I identify as a white man 0.00000000000 fucking 1% somewhere. And all the other stuff comes so far ahead of it. I identify as a person who bleeds. I identify as a person with skin. I identify as a person with a heart and a soul and thoughts. I identify as a person living on earth, living in a society. I identify as a person living in a country. I identify as a person with a mother and a father. I identify as a person with friends and family. I identify as a person. I'm a person. And I think whoever's listening out there is probably a person too. And you know what? When you're told that you're not going to get a job or something because of the color of your skin, as recently happened to a very close person to me. And I don't think I don't want to blow up their spot, but this person is one of the kindest people that I know and is very people-oriented and cool. And because of this, nobody wants to disappoint him or hurt his feelings. And sometimes he gets told, you know, a bunch of bullocks and gets given a runaround because he's such a wonderful person. And people really genuinely want to work with them and do things with them. But there has been a barrier over a past bunch of time. This person was lined up to do huge things that ultimately never came through because of stupid politics within the entertainment industry. I mean, really, I'm talking about a really creative dynamo who was just lined up to do everything, and they got halted in lots of different ways, and a way that we now know is dominating Hollywood right now is the DEI way, the racist way. And this person, after being kind of told by those close to them that they were like a little soft sometimes and they needed to be a little tougher and like, you know, to get things done, they pressed, and again, I'm just like keeping it because I don't want people to even figure out like who I'm talking about or whatever, but they pressed their person that they were meeting with to explain to them why the thing that was right there to go, that everybody loved, that everything was green lights on, like, I don't understand. What is the problem? What is the problem? Can you please just tell me? And they were told point blank, without a shadow of a doubt, you're a white guy. Straight white guy. And there's nothing we can do. This is the reality that we're living in, and it's in more places than just Hollywood. This is happening in the upper echelons of society. Essentially, the white slave class is being replaced with an ethnically diverse slave class mixed with some white women. And they are basically being taught to oppress a whole segment of society that was oppressing them the other day. But that's not the real story. The real story is that America and the whole world is oppressed, has been oppressed for a very long period of time. I mean, not very long period, forever. We've always been, our society, we are oppressed. Society is oppressed by the financial elites who have a significant, like, multiples of, like, so many multiple times of what anybody has. You know, like, all of our money together, with their money together, it's so many fucking times what we have. It's not even funny. They are living in another dimension of financial stability. It is a dominantly white group, but there's all sorts of fucking people involved in all that shit. Especially when you go around the world, because it's all about the people that the other people corrupted. And there's a whole group of corrupt mafia, of terrible fucking financial freaking interested people who are making money off of all of our backs. And this whole stupid fucking liberal movement has become a movement of oppressing the oppressed. It's the oppressed oppressing the oppressed. Oppressed people oppress oppressed people. You guys are missing the target. You're not fucking helping anything. You're not changing the world. You're allowing it to continue as it was going on. Yesterday, these fucking weak-ass white men let this shit fucking happen, and now you're letting this shit happen. You fucking weak-ass people of whatever fucking colors and genders you are. Weak-ass people let the dominant system dominate others. Strong people in strong positions of power stand up for the other people being oppressed and say no. You need to stand up and say no. This is not right. And in the cases of these big fucking businesses, you need to get together fucking lawsuits, class action lawsuits. Get your people together and do something about this. We want to live in a meritocracy if we want the best art, and we want the best ideas, and we want the best technology, and we want the best music, and we want the best anything. You don't want to live under ideology. You can't cheer on people who share your personal ideology, getting their way in the fucking reproductive rights movement. Because something else is going to go the other way that you're not going to like either. We need to live and let live. We need to come together as centrists, as people who are willing to do this, and stand in the middle of these stupid fucking crazy right-wing people and these stupid crazy left-wing people and prevent them from fucking fighting in the first place. And honestly, I have come to see that mostly the fucking right-wing seems way more level-headed than this fucking miserable left-wing. And I say you're fucking miserable because you were just complaining all the man, you need to be the hero of your fucking story. Not every story could be a fucking tragedy. You need to change your freaking minds. You see what they're doing to you? They're oppressing you. My father was a fucking poor fucking white kid from freaking Long Island who felt like a dweeb. And he wrote music to empower people, to tell them that they could do it. Right now they're telling you you can't do it. And the only way that your life and anybody else's life in the black community is ever going to be good is if the government comes in to help you. That's all fucking bullshit. The system is fucking shit. The system is broken. The system needs to be fucking changed. It doesn't have anything to do with you or your ability to do anything. We're all under the same fucking system. It's not working for any of us. There's no middle class. We're all just fucking poor people. It's insane. I'm a poor person. My father and my mother, they have some fluidity in some of the things that they can do because my mother's been lucky with her father and his business that he had, and not that she was like a rich girl. He really, slowly but he's always had money, but he didn't when he was younger, and he got into business for himself, and he turned it into something that my mother is now inheriting, which is actually the thing that's really making my parents as comfortable as they're going to be. And it's not fucking Rothschild and Rockefeller money. They're not changing they're not fucking buying in any political elections or opening up any fucking museums with their names on it. They could be comfortable and live a nice, happy life, and I'm fucking happy that they can. And I'm not gonna fucking take anything away from them because I don't want them to have to fucking worry about shit. But this is the levels. It's like, oh wow, you're low class, but you've managed to figure out how to live in comfort. Great. And then another fucking league of people who are lording all of their bullshit over us. And it has turned into blatant racism in the world of entertainment across the fucking board. Across the board. And in other places too. And like I said, I've seen this. This has been talked about for years and years and years behind the scenes and things. And I just haven't said it like this because you always end up sounding like a whiny bitch. Like, oh, you cry racism. They call it racism. Like, so it's just like, it's such like sort of like a weak thing to have to be like, hey man, they're persecuting me. But it is happening. And I'm not here for me. I don't fucking give a shit. I'm succeeding. I got a fucking, you know, my 2 podcasts, in May, we went up a little bit more. It was like another 100, we were 1 million point, I don't know. It wasn't like 1.2 million. It was like 60,000 more or something like that than we had last month or whatever. But we're going up and up, and we're making money, and you know, and I'm finding ways to make money with comic books on Kickstarter. You know, right now I've got my book Fucking for Our Future. It's doing pretty good. It's going to do better. We need you, by the way. Please go to Kickstarter, put in Fucking for Our Future #1. This book is so funny. It's not gross, I promise you. It's really just genuinely a cool book. There's only 20 days left by the time you hear this. Who knows how many days left there will be, but go. It is really genuinely humorous. And it's totally taken on, like, you know, an energy with people, and I really think it's going to be like a cult status book in the future for us. So, you know, go get it now while you can. Get in there and be a part of Fucking for Our Future on Kickstarter. But, you know, this is the thing. The system fucking sucks. The system's broken. I've used the system at various times to make some money, you know, but I've always been a freelance person. And, you know, and through freelance things, you know, I'm managing to get a hold of something. But I'm still fucking struggling. I'm divorced, and it's, like, so difficult to basically pay for 2 households. It shouldn't be. Like, one person should be able to take care of so many people. But the difficulty, especially in the entertainment world, which I used to be a voiceover actor in demand, and I did start to get the feeling that my name, Jesse Snider, was telling people that I was white, and it was preventing me from getting work. For a little while, I changed it to Jesse Blaze, and I actually got some work. Isn't that funny how that works? So this is just like a very interesting scenario that we are in, where we are dealing with so much real racism towards, you know, sort of a mainstay demographic of our society. You know, and it's not, again, it's not being directed at the CEOs of these fucking companies. It's being directed at these little itty bitty people down on the ground. Like, you know, white collar white guys are the devil. And I don't see that to be true. I mean, isn't it hysterical, that great show with Borat, where he was hanging out with the 2 white dudes? Those dudes let him into their house for a week or whatever to hang out with him. They're kind guys. They might think whatever they want to fucking think. They're not trying to hurt anybody. They were really nice guys. They said, hey, if anybody tries to take away our right to feel the way we feel and do the things we do, we're going to fight for that. Great. Fucking A. Stand up. So will I. You try to put my fucking kids into a draft into the military? I'm going to fucking fight for that. No way. My children will not go to fight any of your bullshit fucking wars. I know too much about too many fucking things, and it's just all fucking misdirection and nonsense, and my children will not participate in any of it. I will throw myself on fucking railroad tracks in order to stop anything like that from ever fucking happening. And there are so many other people who will too. And I do not think that the majority of Americans in this country really want civil war or any of this bullshit. We're peaceful people here, especially in the geek community. People who fucking worship Superman and all this stuff. Yeah, Punisher is like a thing and whatnot, but we've always known that this is the extreme answer. And we know that Superman is the fucking way. Spider-Man is the way. With great power comes great responsibility. Truth, justice, the American way. We all know that that's north. We know Batman's a little too tough on crime. We know. Everybody fucking knows. Anybody who's in comics gets the fucking moral degrees of existence because they can see it beautifully spelled out in all these characters who have different moral degrees that they're coming from. It's very clear and easy to see what real morality is. And maybe you can't be fucking Superman or Jesus Christ yet, but you do know what it is. And to suggest that fucking the people in the geek community are sexist and racist and all these different things over the years, and all it's so fucking ridiculous. And to suggest that white people in the arts need to be done away with, and, you know, a whole new world needs to be ushered in, as opposed to the world be made more accessible for the future generations. And, I mean, like, there are other ways to be inclusive and open doors. And I mean, especially just the changing mind of God as people learn to be, and as comedians break through the wall. Eddie Murphy comes along, or Richard Pryor comes along, and they make us laugh so hardcore. Or Eminem comes along and rap, and he makes inroads for other people. Or somebody runs a 5-minute mile, and then everybody else is running a fucking 5-minute mile or less, because now it's possible. And isn't that wonderful, that organic story, when there are people who change, freaking the course of history, like Jackie Robinson and Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. You're like, that's so amazing, and those people matter, and it means something. And it means something when Julie's an electrician, kicking ass, doing it like all the men do, and being, just as good and reliable, and having freaking different unions fighting over her because she's got her shit together and she's a good egg. That's awesome. That stuff's cool. It shouldn't be any less cool. My mom was on the girls' track team. I don't want every girl on the girls' track team. It's not cool. Like, my mom's not cool anymore. But every girl who should want to go on the girls' track team should be allowed to. And those 3 or 4 who do, which is probably the actual numbers, they should be allowed and encouraged. And, granted, the other thing with the boys, the girls going on, the boys going on to the girls' track team, that becomes a little bit of a different thing. And honorable people need to recognize that, well, under these circumstances, perhaps I'm going to have to get into bodybuilding or do something that is right for me, where I'm not going to go and be competing against people that I have an unfair advantage against. That's just an honorable thing. If I have an unfair advantage, if a one-armed guy tries to start a fight with me, I'm going to put an arm behind my back. I'm not going to use my 2 hands to punch this guy's fucking face in. That's not cool. If he thinks he's got a legitimate gripe with me and he tries to fight me, come on, man. Like, I'm not going to fucking 1-2 punch this dude. I'm going to give him 1 arm. And that's the thing, and either you give the women 1 arm, and which really means, you let them win. Or you try to go for your competition in other places. And I do think that is like a really weird exception. Unfortunately, it's like when you're a dude and you're transitioning over, it's just unfair, man. And I think most transvestites, know this, and and I've talked to plenty of my trans friends who are like, very much on board with the idea that there's a complete overcorrection, and like we have to talk about this a little bit more reasonably. And there are people who don't have good results, with it on the other end. There are people who do have good results and are happy, but there are plenty that don't. And like a more nuanced conversation about the trans experience and all these is really important, so that you get the most amount of people having positive experiences and no amount of people having terrible experiences. Nobody wants anybody to be fucking living in misery. And these conversations are so easy to fucking have when you're willing to just have a little bit of nuance and a little bit of empathy and realism about the thing. We can do this, guys. But it's going to take standing up for this and not standing for it anymore. You can't stand for it. It's not fair. It's not fair to people who have earned their way in the business that they be completely thrown out the door. And it's not fair to the white kids who are coming up right now, who innocently wanted to be writers or wanted to be actors or wanted to be musicians, that are now being told, no, we're not taking on any more white artists. We can't take any more. Because a lot of them, like what's going on right now over the past bunch of years, there are white artists that they already have a commitment to, and they can't get them any work. The most established people are continuing to get work because they're established, and actually they're the only real draws left in Hollywood, the established white people and black people and whatever else who were established before this inclusion thing happened. Because this inclusion thing happened, brought about a whole new wave of people coming in because they talked the talk and walked the walk of inclusivity and diversity and checked boxes in different ways, and were proud to talk about that very loud in a way that they could promote it and all this stuff. So there's like a wave of very showy, loud, unique people who are like, I'm unique and I want to make everything about how unique I am. You know, I'm very unique, but like, you don't necessarily notice my uniqueness when you read my script. There might be some unique ideas that show up in there, but the rest of the thing that I write is conforming to the genre or the book or the thing that I'm trying to accomplish. You know, like it's not always about me and how weird I am or whatever. You know, you have to create a thing and then honor the thing. Honoring you as the thing is just narcissism. And that's largely what's going on right now in our society and is being encouraged. And the people who are the most narcissistic are essentially being given the jobs. And, you know, there's way more narcissistic people of color and women who are coming from these colleges than there are Christopher priests, unfortunately, who are already successful person of color, who is brave enough to buck the system and sort of comment on the system and how the system's playing. Most of the people who were already there were like, yeah, it was tough, and now I got more allies, whatnot. I'm glad the whole system, the whole power structure is turning to my advantage. I'm going to be able to make a lot of money and go up in this system. This is great for me. And I'm sorry, but that is very deflating and upsetting. Because there were white people who helped you get into that position in the first place, who didn't see you as a color, and you were in that position. If there was no person who would be willing to open a door for a black person, then no black person would be anywhere. But there's plenty. Because there's plenty of people who will listen to black artists like me and others. There's plenty of people who are interested in what they have to say as writers. There's plenty of editors who eventually will hire Christopher Priest so he has a career. Or Spike Jonze, so he has a career, or any of these people. And a lot of these people, you know, they have to fight for it in one way or another before they get accepted and other people see that there's money there and whatnot. But they do it. They do the thing. They get themselves to the point where they're accepted. They break into the system. They change the thing. They open up doors for other people. And the system has been changing in all sorts of wonderful ways. And when it changes incorrectly and shitty like this, we can't forget that, you know, it was a white guy who freed the slaves. And I'm not trying to fucking take, you know, I don't identify as being a white, but I don't identify with Abraham Lincoln because he's a fucking white guy. I don't identify with him at all. Like, I live in a world where there are no slaves, and that never should have been the case in the first place. And like, why didn't you do something about this sooner, Abraham? You know, I mean, it's just so fucking crazy the way people are thinking right now. And I'm so grateful to all of the people of color and all of the women who have formed YouTube channels and write articles and stuff to have their voice go out to the masses, because I know your voice carries more weight. You know, it's why I say that I am technically non-binary or something like adjacent to that or whatever. You know, I am technically an Ashkenazi Jew by blood, you know, but, you know, my family have converted over the years, but I have a lot of family who was Jewish and in the Holocaust and whatever else, because I know that it carries more weight when you can understand that my experience is a bit more nuanced than I'm just a white man. And of course that shaped a lot of my desire to see us all equal, to see us all treated right and get what we want and be living happy lives. You know, and the lack of racism in the place that I come from, and acceptance of everybody. You know, I remember Vic, I was very little, but, you know, Vic was one of my dad's security guys for Twisted Sister. And he was always hanging out, you know, he was like babysitting for me all the time, essentially, because, you know, dad's on stage or whatever it might be. And, you know, I spent a lot of time, you know, with Vic as a kid. And, you know, it's like Vic wasn't a black guy. He was just, you know, one of my other uncles, you know, who was taking care of me and they're growing up. And like, you know, when you grow up in a more nuanced system and not like a dominantly one color system or whatever, and grow up reading the fucking Sneetches and the Starbelly Sneetches and Dr. Seuss and having like the proper attitude about reality through your entertainment and whatnot, like, dude, like, it's a small world after all. It's the best. No, like, really, it's the best. There's, like, all sorts of shit to learn from each other. And, like, there's all sorts of cultures. And, like, all the cultures, the ancient wisdom of all the different cultures is, like, fucking insane and immense and amazing. Like, there's the music from other cultures. Like, life is good. Life is beautiful. Because there's difference. Because there's so many different things out there. It's fucking great. We need to stop forgetting that. We need to celebrate this shit. And we need to stand up for our brothers. If you're out there and you're black or you're Hispanic or anything, and like you haven't done anything and you see like this kind of stuff going on, like say something. Say something. You know? Correct this. I remember I did this on the football field. There was always this hazing going on with the seniors against everybody else. Everybody else had to take in the pads on the varsity team. Everybody had to take in the pads, and the seniors could just walk in. And I fucking hated that shit. I remember me and my friend, we fucking hated that shit. And then the year goes by, and we're seniors the next year. And my friend starts ordering the underclassmen to bring in the pads. And I go, dude, we hated that shit. Like, what the fuck? We're going to do it too? And he went, oh, well, like, I mean, like, that's like what, okay. You know? And like, and that was it. And no more. Never happened again. 1 year, the assholes made the underclassmen bring in the pads, and then it became the fucking thing. And then I stopped it. Simply by stopping it on the first fucking day. And I was a senior, and I had the power to do that, to pressure my friend to go, yeah, okay, never mind. That's it. If you're executive and you're in a position and you see this fucking injustice going on, be Superman, be fucking Spider-Man, and do the right fucking thing. Please. I talked about Mark Waid and Ethan Van Sciver before. I think about Mark Waid and Ethan Van Sciver as Superman, which is Mark's favorite character, and Batman, and which I think is probably Ethan's favorite character. And Superman and Batman are not alike. They're very different, ultimately. Granted, like everybody else, they're 99.999% alike. But character-wise, story-wise, they're very different. And every day on the Justice League, they figure out how to compromise and do things in a way that makes everybody happy. If Batman and Superman can do it, the men who write and draw Batman and Superman should be able to do it. The people in the geek culture community and so many of the intellectuals in the writing world and the directing world and the actors studying these heroic characters and all these things, you guys need to collect your cojones and you need to get it together and you need to fight the good fight. And it's not punching people in the face or being dicks to people. It's just going, listen, I really think this needs to stop. I think it's really lame what's going on here. And we're literally going against the wishes of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He had a dream that we would be judged by the content of our character. It's not about the asshole adults that you know now and piss you off, who might happen to be a different color than you or a different sex than you or a different race than you. It's about the little kids that are being grown right now in people's bellies and are coming up in schools, like my kids just freaking graduated and whatever. It's about the life that they're going to live in, the world that they're going to live in. And this is real bullshit if we're going to fucking perpetuate racism all these years later after somebody like myself fought so hard to really fucking uncover so many of these things. I was at the front of that shit. I watched Jon Stewart every day. I fucking just loved, I was like liberal news and understanding and what was fucking going on but they played me, man. They played us all. And they're just pitting us against each other, and they're stealing from all of us. And when they want a fucking Republican candidate that's not Donald Trump, they'll friggin' buy one of the Republican candidates, and they'll force that guy into fucking office. And then we'll have a Republican candidate, and we'll be like, hey, a Republican's in. And it won't be a fucking Republican. It'll be the same crony capitalism that's been going on for forever. It'll be Bush to the Clintons to Obama. It's all the same bullshit, guys. And it's time for us to start standing up for the bullshit. Not for the assholes that we know, but for the future generations who might be a little bit less assholes than we are today. We're all assholes. We've all been assholes. We've all gotten too mad or yelled too much or done the wrong thing or had a petty thought or acted from our ego or done something terrible. But we are a little bit better than our parents were. Just like they were a little bit better than their parents were, and they were a little bit better than their parents were. And our kids have an opportunity to be so much fucking better than this. Don't be so short-sighted. This fight today is not worth it. We got to come together, stand up for each other appropriately, and give space to the next generation to change the world for once and for all. to do real good. But it's not going to happen until we get out of our own fucking way and stop acting like victims in every fucking scenario. And it goes both ways. The fucking liberals acting like victims and the Republicans acting like victims and the politicians acting like... Everybody's a fucking victim. And I get it too. Because you know what? I had a victim mindset even just recently. And it wasn't until I realized that I was... Because I wasn't feeling victimized by individuals. You know, like I wasn't blaming my mom or blaming my dad or blaming my... even blaming society or anything. I was sort of like blaming God a little bit. Like I was blaming an existential thing. You know, this was being inflicted upon me by some existential thing and I don't like it. And fuck you for doing this to me. You know, like that's what was going on. A real like, ah. And that is victimhood. It is. It's victimhood too. It doesn't have to be that I'm not blaming anybody in particular. But I'm just, if I'm all fucking hostile about how the world is treating me, about how existence is treating me, you have a victim mentality. And it behooves us all to get out from under that. We have to get out from under that. And I understand it. I understand it completely. I mean, like, look at all these systems, look at all these things. Who wants to be here under these conditions? These conditions are awful. I want to be able to change these conditions. But changing the conditions is really about changing the condition that you are living and thinking in. The chains really exist inside you, inside your heart, inside your mind. And when you dissolve them by not allowing any of these circumstances to have any power over you, and to know that ultimately whatever comes, you will be able to overcome it. If you can have that faith and have that attitude, you will change reality. And, you know, this is really high-level esoteric stuff that I'm talking about right now. I've been doing a show every Friday. It hasn't started coming out as the podcast yet. It actually hasn't been coming out even though I've been doing it every Friday because the Podcast Playground's just looking for a way to start promoting it. But pretty soon, every Friday, you're going to be able to find a new show called Everything They Don't Want You to Know, which is my show teaching Freemason-type stuff and... looking at secret society information, the shit that the fucking echelon elite people don't want you to know. And I've had enough intermixings with these people to fucking understand what's going on and what you need to really understand the quantum reality that you are living in. And it is a complex reality, trust me. And I really hope you'll join me on that show as it starts to get out. Of course, you guys have heard me talk about All Your Favorite Bands Suck, which is my music show. I do that every Monday. Just handed in a great episode on DMX. Love DMX. I think that just came out today. All Your Favorite Bands Suck. There's like 30 episodes. It's basically a feature on some of my favorite bands, a lot of different genres, lots of different types of bands in the mix there. Go check it out when you get a chance. I think you'll be really happy with the show. The show's growing really fast. And then every Sunday night, me and my best buddy Aaron Sparrow, we get together and we do this live stream of Coolest Geeks Alive stream. And I've been interviewing him about his career, and that's been super fun. So hopefully you'll come and join us for some of those things. And I don't know what else I have to say about this. I mean, I've talked for an hour and 17 minutes, which is a lucky number 17 for me. So, I'm feeling like I've probably kicked this dead horse enough. But if I was somebody who was recording my history in the business more, I would have more specific stories to tell you. But I don't really care about like the details of this thing. You know, I really do kind of think of things as simple as, you don't want me to do this? Like, all right, well, if I'm not the right man for the job, I'm not the right man for the job. I think that's a mistake you're making, but all good. But, there have been a few that are so flagrant. And, and like I said, I'm not going to, I don't want to play this game where I'm like demonizing companies and making people look bad or whatnot. So, I'm doing this stuff anonymously because I don't think that these people deserve to lose their fucking job or anything. Because I do believe that they're just playing this game. But we got to stop playing this game. I don't want to force you all in the audience to stop playing this game. I'm asking you to stop playing it. I'm asking you to not tell me as a writer, like, there is not an Ice Cube's chance in hell that I'm pitching you in this level of a position as the face of this project at this stage of the game. You know, you shouldn't be thinking that. If the ideas are good, then what you should say is, I don't know if they're going to go for this because of a lot of factors, but I do think these are good ideas, and I'll present them to my higher-ups. When you go, there's no chance that they would go for this. You assume that, like, well, you can't do that anymore. You can't say that anymore. Like, I hate it when I hear people say, well, you can't say that anymore, or you couldn't make this movie today. Well, if you have that, not with that attitude, you can't. In your mind, you can't. That movie can't be created anymore by you. Those ideas can't be made anymore by you. You know, things are always, to some degree, a product of their time. So, I mean, to some degree, yeah, no, nothing can be made anymore. You know, like there's either a time where these things, like, everything's always adjusting. Even genres that exist for forever, they still are adjusting all the time. They're changing and adjusting into the latest version of the new trope version of themselves, to some degree. Homogenizing, leaning into various things that people seem to like, and the styles changing, and the art the comics are making. Everything's like adjusting. And that's natural. But these huge overcorrections are not. Overcorrections are not natural. And racism is racism. And everybody out there in this audience, if you're listening to the show, do not stand for this anymore. Fight this loudly and calmly and cool. Don't be passionate about this. Don't get mad about this, upset about this. We have the benefit of not being charged with this whole thing of, like, you know, our ancestors have more recently been enslaved. And I say more recently because every fucking person's ancestor on planet Earth has been enslaved at some point in time. Okay? Everybody. We've all been enslaved. This is not an exclusively black experience. It's a little bit more recent here in the American experience, but it is not singular. And right now, they are trying to continue to perpetuate racism quietly under the surface of our society. No. Martin Luther King Jr. would not have wanted this. And I'm sure he is looking down from fucking heaven going, heaven to Betsy, what have we done? If you're out there and you need to hear, I love you. Care Bear Stare. I hope that you guys were able to have this conversation with me, and you guys were able to understand the very loving and caring place that I am coming from. I am a person on planet Earth, and I love you all. I don't hate anybody. I mean, maybe for a moment, sometimes I'll be like, oh, I hate that person. And I'll be like, I forgive them. I love them. Because I don't like to hate anybody. I don't like to hold ill will in my heart. And I try to understand everybody. I try to forgive everybody. And I do. But that doesn't mean that shit is wild. And there is enough actionable evidence that, and enough change in the temperature of the room and the energy of how everything's going on, that it is time to fight back against this bullshit. This DEI terraforming of our society. This is fucking America. The land of the damn free. And I'm so disappointed in the crazy, self-righteous chicanery that has been going on in the news and on TV, and with all these actors and all these comic book writers and all these directors and all these people parroting the system, demonizing the fans, and separating itself from society so clearly. I am a member of society. I am also a member of the counterculture of society. I have never been and never wanted to be a member of their bullshit Hollywood, it guys club. Fuck all their superficial thinking and all their me garbage. I know, I'm very out there and outgoing, and it seems sometimes like I would have to be some sort of really egotistical type person or whatever. But I'm I'm people oriented, you know, like I'm hoping, you know, that I am bringing you guys information and making you laugh and making the world a better place by doing this. If I didn't think that I was, I wouldn't do it. You know, I don't want to just hear myself talk. I mean, if I have something to say, if I've been talking for a moment and I don't feel as though I've said anything meaningful, I have a voice that goes off in my head that says like, blah, 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 fucking talk about something, Jesse. You know, if I'm doing a show and I'm like, man, I don't really have anything to say, like, I feel bad about it. I always want to be bringing you guys intellectual gold, information that might benefit you on your journey as a creative person or as a person enjoying creative things, film, books, whatever it might be, and enjoying life. I mean, I think all this shit is helps make your life better. Hobbies and films and shared experiences, you know, with the group. And I mean, like, that's really the thing that I love the most about entertainment. It's a shared experience, quoting movies with each other, referencing movies to each other, being able to identify something very simply through a story that we all know. It's just a very deepening experience. It deepens the relationships that we have. So anyway, I love you guys. I have a new song. It's a video's coming out. It's coming out tomorrow. No, what is today? Today's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's coming out Friday. So if you're listening to this on Thursday, yeah, or Wednesday or Thursday, yeah, it's not out yet, but on Friday it's coming out. It's called We Want Some Pussy. It's a cover of Two Live Crew's classic, We Want Some Pussy, but it's a mashup cover to the tune of AC/DC's TNT. We've been doing it live at the DILF USA concerts for a while, and it's been going over really great, and I love it. So it's very funny, and we made this very funny music video. Shout out to Julie Bright again. Julie and I, produced this thing, and made it, with the band. We've been producing all of our music videos. We made a lot of really funny music videos that you should check out. There's 3 of them that have been released so far. This will be our 4th. We've got 5 and 6 coming in the next few months. So I'm really, really stoked about DILF USA. We've got the Steel Panther singer wearing a DILF USA t-shirt on stage now. So fucking yes. Shout out to Steel Panther. Love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me for this show. Thank you for joining me this controversial subject or whatever it is. It shouldn't be so fucking controversial. I hope that you guys are feeling what I'm saying and that it matters to you. Share this show with other people. Whatever it is, fucking have some conversations about this. Change the fucking way the world is being run right now because it's bullshit and we could do better than this. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me on Coolest Geek Alive. I hope you join me for Saturday's episode. I'm doing a coolest pick for Brawl in Cell Block 99, which is a pretty recent movie that Vince Vaughn did that I fucking loved. And it's not a typical kind of geek pick, but it's a great movie, and I really want to cover it. So I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Anyway, I love you guys. Please join me again. Join me on Saturday, and then again next Wednesday for another fucking awesome episode of the Coolest Geek Alive. Love you.
Let's sing it. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's it, see. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah! It's my favorite part. Isn't that heavy? I'll play that. Coolest alive.
You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snider. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.